Hello, everyone. Hi there. It's good to be out in the open. I just wanted to do a little Shakti energy work update on this side because I've got a couple of interesting developments, I think. Um, Armpit. Yes, sorry. It's the anatomy, you just have to live with it anyway. So, and there's one other little trick here that I did. This is actually a curtain rail or a segment, a piece of it that I was, left with. This was just left over. And I use it now to hold my cards of the day. So these were my cards. Yes. I believe that's the Page of Swords. I always have a hard time telling the Page and the Knight apart in this deck, the steampunk deck. Judgment again, Priest and Magician. So quite a lot of masculine energy. I did fiddle with it a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually duct tape. One band rolled up tightly or folded up really inside the rail, and one on sort of folded up once a bit and then stuck in to that, so, and stuck over to the side, if that makes any sense. Yes, maybe. So the cards stay upright slightly more because the gap in the rail was actually a bit on the wide side for these cards. They tended to just sort of, lay back like that. So now they're slightly more upright. That's better. And this works really nicely. And it's wide enough for even the both of us to have our cards in. If there's, two sets of cards, that will work just fine. And you can just sort of, it's like a school board really. You can just sort of look at the whole setup of things. So I thought that was fun to share. It's just a little do-it-yourself trick. So from there on out, I have made this thing, as you maybe have noticed. I'm fairly chuffed with how this turned out. It's even got beads in the back as well, like so, because this lot is rather heavy, and I learned from my friends that it actually works to put counterweights in the neck, even though it's a bit, fiddly in there, and you have to get used to that a bit. But it's got amber beads, little tiny pine cones that I still have left from the south of France, and a couple of pottery items that I made myself. But most important of all, let me just zoom into you or draw you a bit closer like that. I tend to, have more distance because then I can see better what it is that the whole thing looks like, including the armpits. Yes, sorry about that. I hope I don't gross you out. Amber and stuff, and there's a little goddess pendant right there. But this is really the interesting bit as far as I'm concerned at the moment. This is actually a piece of deer bone, foot bone at the where his little toes should be, if he had toes still. So down at the end of the foot almost, that I found on the beach in the West Country. Let me point that way. That's where the West is. I'm facing east, I am. And the deer, or the stag, has been a totem of mine for quite a number of years. And I thought it was just quite cool to find this bone. I have no idea how old this is because the color of the bone piece, this sort of dark brown gray color, is what they tend to do anyway. So it may be 100 years old or a lot more than that. I have no idea, no way of knowing. But because the deer was my totem, and probably still is, even though it's not something I work with a lot at the moment, except maybe now I have actually done a bit of working with the deer totem, because I felt in the past couple of weeks, I've had this up and down movement a lot with the past lives experiences and the things that sort of have come to me while meditating or pondering past lives activities or influences or developments. And there's a lot about that I still don't know. I haven't got any. All I've got is my own experience, really, and it's just not tangible. Sorry, I will be a bit coughy because Shakti work, and then the body starts doing stuff. What I felt like I could really tell when I was sort of aligned with the past lives. Sort of, they're not even memories, but there's like whole worlds that are accessible to me in a way emotionally, and it feels much better if I'm sort of aligned with that. And when I don't know, I don't even realize that I turn away from that type of vibration, really. And it's not like I have to listen to gypsy music or I have to listen to Indian music the whole time or any of it. It's just I'm free more or less to do what I like, or to engage in other activities, or to be with people and stuff. But I suppose it's a very basic and almost completely silent assumption in my my consciousness. That's the hair, not really. Anyway, never mind the hair either. Whether I am aligned or not. And doing Shakti energy work is definitely an activity that sort of takes all my focus away from everything else and invests it in the Shakti again. And then, things proceed again. And there's stuff coming out of there that also has to do with past lives, because I think definitely that doing Shakti energy work in the way that I'm doing it provides us with past lives awareness to a humongous extent. And I'm still not completely sure whether it is that the past lives information, maybe you can't even just say that the past lives information is actually stored anywhere in particular, whether it is stored in the earth line beneath the earth star chakra down into the earth, or within the earth star itself locked away, or whether it's stored in the body, in the bones, or in the vertebrae, in the backbone, or in the brain even. I'm not sure. It's more like a field, and so far I have found it to become more accessible as I do Shakti work. So that's more or less what happened. So the best thing I can do really is to just proceed, at my own pace with the Shakti energy work. And I'm surprised how long it takes for significant changes to occur. And it means to me doing it almost every day. And basically either in the morning or in the evening. And there's like waves where there's a couple of days where I, really go forging ahead with it. And then I just sort of let it be for a couple of days again. So it's more or less like that. So that's one way. If you want to know what I'm on about the Shakti energy work, I made actually a playlist on my channel that has only my own descriptions of what it is that I'm doing and some of the updates. So there's been a whole exchange of personal experiences and stuff like that with Jennifer Pearson. She also got a playlist on her channel, which has all the exchange, all the different VRs and discussions of items and subjects relating to energy work. I just felt that the Shakti work that I'm doing is actually paying off. It's starting to more and more pay off, and I just wanted to have a separate set, especially where I could just where people would be able to just, go for that bit if that's what they want. So, to summarize maybe really briefly what it is that I'm doing, I'm going to be doing this also because there's flies, and maybe I'm even going to do splat, so it's possible, because flies, damn it. Yuck. It's summertime, so what can you do? It's really beautiful weather out here. I should be outside. I have been outside, and I will be back outside quite soon, I suppose, because sunshine, and there's lots of little blue flowers in my garden, and it's just lovely out there. But then, a short summary about the Shakti energy. Well, I found that using different meditation techniques, I have managed to come into contact with my own Shakti energy, which I call Shakti and not Kundalini, because I believe that the Kundalini energy resides only in the body, and the secret to getting into contact with this whole operation is that the Shakti comes out of the earth, really. So it's quite personal. It is every single one of us, and I believe animals as well, or even plants and trees, have a form of Shakti energy within each and every individual one of them, and they express it. So trees, for example, will normally express it really well, but it's tree energy, so it's different from human energy. And for us, we have a lot more, on our plate, problem-wise and solution-wise also. So I found, and it wasn't the first time that I realized that, but it's that time that I actually started working on this to get that resolved, that I had a lot of cold areas in my body, along my spine, where the Shakti energy wasn't really going in or through. And I decided that I needed to work on that. Not so much because I was, ill or in a bad way, or not feeling like I, was in trouble in any way. I just felt that it wasn't right. I needed to get this energy to go into those areas. And it was the right time, apparently. So I've been doing that, which is really a concentrated focus kind of activity, for which also I need to be really relaxed. So I tend to do that in bed, basically before I fall asleep, or just after I woke up. And because that's the easiest moment, it's the moment where my root chakra is most in a state of relaxation and openness, and that's when the Shakti energy will be felt. So that's how I proceed. It's not like sitting in my meditation chair over yonder and going home and opening up that way. That's completely different. I also do that, but that's maybe once every 2 weeks or so, that I will have to, do something in those lines, because I need to sort of get my focus cleared up, and because of energies that are coming into my field that I don't want to live with, and then there's a whole different story and a whole different approach to that. Also, info about that in my channel somewhere. So, what else is there that I really should say at this point? It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of focused intent. Yes, that's a good way of expressing that. And you learn, I suppose, as you do it. It becomes easier because the Shakti starts to work for us, and we learn to work with it. And I'm also very interested in how everything has to do with acceptance and or surrender, and how those two are really different aspects of the same thing, really, I suppose. Nowadays we talk about acceptance, and back in the old days, and I'm talking before the Second World War, basically, the term surrender would have been in use in spiritual circles or in groups of people where authors would talk about that. And the idea then would have been to surrender to a sense of the divine. And nowadays we talk about acceptance because we don't want to talk about the divine unless that is what we are actually, explicitly saying that we're doing. So I suppose as time goes on, all of us really come to this notion that the divine is really a personal quest for all of us, and that we shouldn't really, we should mess with that. We shouldn't tell each other how to experience any of that. You can't tell anybody. It's just about, finding your own way, I suppose. So we don't assume so much anymore, and that's why the term acceptance has come into play. And it's different because acceptance of unacceptable things, like we were talking about earlier this week, isn't possible really, or shouldn't be. I shouldn't ever think that you should want to make yourself accept things that aren't acceptable, but to sort of set that aside for a minute and try to come into closer contact with a higher self, let's put it that way, or even a soul dimension of yourself, is actually a form of, often, what I would advocate certainly is that you're looking for surrender, because you have to sort of allow for a level of communication between lower and higher parts of yourself, lower and higher vibrations, and that's the whole trick, isn't it? That's what I think definitely a spiritual path is about. It's about communicating the earth plane with possible other planes, So how you experience that and how you interpret that and how you word it and how you work with this is, of course, very much up to oneself, and also up to how far you want to go and what is comfortable, and whether the term acceptance and or surrender actually register as positive for you is completely personal, and you cannot make anybody and you cannot make yourself do any of this. So it's a very personal matter. However, on the level of surrender, there's a reason why I'm going into this because over the past couple of weeks or so, I think I've been working with the Shakti energy, going along the spine upwards, again still the same, more or less the same path. I found around my solar plexus area, so against my backbone, but the third chakra right there, that there was really a completely different level of resistance in there. Very surprising level. I've been into my heart area, I've described this also, and it's incorporated in another video. So maybe I should talk a bit more about that, because it's very relevant. I managed to, I think that's maybe 3 weeks ago now, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. I managed to, so you see, it's not necessarily the Shakti energy going only from, like we would if we were to walk from here to Paris, we would have to pass through Belgium if we were walking, okay, on foot. And you cannot be in the north of France without first having gone through Belgium, like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With the Shakti energy, it's actually very possible to take some of it up to a place where you feel at that moment that you need to do some work, and go there and do the work and see what happens. And that's what I did to my heart area a couple of weeks ago. I went to the absolute base, inside core, starting point, if you can call it those things, of my heart area. So right here, but against my backbone, yes, with the Shakti. And there was another really, tough little knot of basically lack of awareness, a dark area. Dark or cold or whatever you like to call it. It didn't feel very cold. It was just very dark, and very like nobody ever been there. Like a very old house that's got, it's been shuttered and shut down and nobody's been in there for a century or so. I mean, it's spooky, yes. So bringing the Shakti in there took a bit of time. It took a bit of doing. What I do is I sit there, I have awareness of this dark area, I have awareness of the Shakti, and I just try to coax them to be as close to each other as possible. And that's it, really. I don't push or pull anywhere. And what happens is the Shakti will eventually start melting into the area that needs the work, or that needs the light or the heat or any of it. And that worked beautifully. Oh, I'm still really happy because the results of that have been with me for the past couple of weeks. And I don't know if you can tell, if you look at my older videos and more recent videos where you can actually see the difference from what this person is doing. I don't know. Possibly. It's also quite possible that it'll take a bit longer for all the changes to really manifest and to really, work all the way out towards the outside. But one fundamental change that happened as a consequence of this heart area work, so I will get back to the solar plexus in a bit, but the heart area work was that I was, at first I felt really good to have this whole, like a funnel. It's actually like a funnel from a center outward, sort of going like this, warming up. I could also feel that at the center of this round funnel area was actually a lot of sensitivity, and getting the Shakti energy to come into all that from the core outwards like that, it sort of did all that by itself. Once the energy gets to the core, it can actually move into that part of the system. Fascinating, really, to me. Absolutely excellent. And I have felt really fragile and vulnerable for a while. Less now. I'm getting used to it. And I have found that there are things that I can do to sort of feel. I am actually, what's happening is that I can see both sides of things and I can cooperate with people. I can sort of be a grown-up about things much better. I don't feel like I am incapacitated so much anymore. So it's working. I can still also feel that the change is still, in progress, and there's still a lot of, there's still some pain, there's still some cold in here, which is sort of slowly working outward. It takes time. It's been 50 plus years. So yeah, it takes time, and it can still hurt also, bits and pieces. And that's one level where acceptance is the only way forward, really. Looking after myself, sleeping well, eating well, being outside, interacting with people also. There's lots of positive that can be had for me interacting with people. Now that I've sort of got savvy to how all that works, and that it isn't about power struggles most of the time. Never, actually. And it becomes that when all this is very dark and cold, then that's the only thing that we've got left, really. But it doesn't make any sense. Anyway. So, heart area feels a lot more alive, a lot better. It feels like I'm here most of the time, aware and okay, so a bit more vulnerable, but that's not so difficult to work with. I also feel a lot stronger. I feel, one of the things is I'm more relaxed in a way, and I can sort of sit and play solitaire by myself without any worries, or sit and read The Mists of Avalon, which is what I'm reading at the moment. And find it much easier to relate to all the characters in the story and those type of things. I remember I've read the book, 10 times at least, and quite often I used to There were parts of it that I liked and other parts that I just couldn't relate to, or couldn't really, or it annoyed me how, I just used to get irritated and annoyed at people being on about things and dimensions that I felt were really limiting or limited to a particular type of. It was triggering, I suppose, basically. And now, not so much. So that's cool. I can sort of see where people are coming from and why this is relevant. And so, yeah. So, lots of cool stuff. I don't think I need to go into any more detail necessarily about the heart area, because yeah, working fine. Summer, nice, I'm very interested in how all the Shakti work will continue to develop in the course of time. I will be talking about this for probably quite a while yet. So the solar plexus area, which you would think I have to go through Belgium in order to get to Paris. Not in this particular case. I can choose to bypass that area and go to a place that I think needs attention right now. And so that's what happened right there. However, this morning I felt it's time for the solar plexus, and I tried to get this, conjunction of energies. I tried to, but there is much more an impression of pushing away actually happening from the solar plexus itself. It's like active pushing away of the Shakti. So that was interesting, right? So I felt like I'm still not having it, because I still want the Shakti to go everywhere. I want to have a nice. I don't want to have any little totalitarian sub departments where they do what they want. And not listen to the whole of outside. And I want to be uniform. That sounds very totalitarian by itself, but I would like to have everything open, to all sides, if that's possible. So I sat there again, I maybe the third or fourth time, where I tried to sort of convince this solar plexus, the chakra area, to accept or come into dialogue with the Shakti again. And it was almost, there was a bit of scenery even. It's like a smallish valley that you could sort of see from the rim, and you just could look into it, and in the middle of the valley is some type of, I don't know, let's say a well or a building, and in the middle there, like it was like levels going in, really. And so that's what I did, and then I just sat there with a lot of Shakti energy, in right here. So just like, can we please just come into contact with whatever it is that's, pushing us away, and all this is happening within my own body, to talk about schizo or whatever, So in the end, I just sat there, and then all of a sudden, it was like a dart of fire coming from the Shakti, going zit from the bottom into the third chakra, like that. And from there on out, it feels like the third chakra is actually starting to heat up and to incorporate the Shakti energy into itself, which is what we want to do. We want always the different parts of this person here to incorporate the Shakti, and to some extent, for the blockages or whatever it is, the memories and everything, to be not necessarily washed away, but to get a lot of different perspective. I want the Shakti perspective, yes please, to almost completely take over. Eventually it will probably take over if I proceed into my brain and my skull, and in the back of the skull there's lots more interesting stuff that's going to happen, and probably I will change, maybe quite a lot. But I've already changed, and I've already, basically so far what's happened is I've become a lot more enthusiastic about life and a lot more compassionate. Lots more. So, yay, great things. The emphasis in my life has gone from keeping myself busy doing little creative projects all the time, or gathering information, those two, to being aware of my life, being enjoying myself, whatever it is that I'm doing. There wasn't all that much. The gathering information and the creative projects were also very much joyful activities, but they were limited to like these ranges where that was allowed, you know, in the context of the old way of being. Before even my soul retrieval happened, I had like these tiny little alleyways. It was dead end even most of the time, where actually doing energy work, working with crystals, meditating and all that has sort of withdrawn me from that. And it doesn't mean that I don't do little projects anymore. I mean, witness the Nicholas, of course. But nowadays I will do a project because I really want to, because I think it's just, oh, hallelujah, you know, and I can actually share stuff on here with you guys, and people are actually feeling that I have something to contribute. If I make yay much of a bit of a difference in somebody's day, well done us, you know. There you go. So what the developments will be from the third chakra process, Shakti process so far. What I can feel is it feels nice and hot in my in my stomach area somehow. It feels, but it hasn't translated to anything yet. So we will see what that gives. Who knows how ambitious I can become? Who knows? I mean, I'm not the one who's going to tell at this stage, because I have never been ambitious to save my life. So that's one. What else did I want to talk about? There's a lot of, now that I look at my crystals and my gizmos over here, there's a lot of stuff that I've used. If I look at this one, for example, just got a little smudge on it. Beautiful Septarian stone that I've used a lot in order also to sort of help me straighten up, you know, in front of the camera and get my act together, sort of, and get my brain to work in cooperation with everything else. I suppose the work for the stone becomes easier now that I've got, there's a definite sense of a response, but it still hurts a bit because there's parts in that solar plexus area that are sort of getting jiggered into life, if that makes sense. It's just like there's this ignition in the middle. So I'm putting all this out there because it's all part of the process as I'm going through it. And I'm betting that every single one of whoever may be at one place or time tempted to start this process of your own, you will encounter some type of similar experience, and that may be slightly scary. There's people are scared of the Kundalini energy. Yes, they are, and because of this, I think, because you get the machine starts, the wheels start turning by themselves, it feels like, to some extent. So you have to be ready for that. You have to be, I don't know, you have to welcome it in a way. So if you're used to, if I am used to, which certainly is me, you know, if I'm used to a old factory that's not been in use for 100 years, okay? Imagine all these holes and all these machines and all the wheels and everything's just covered in cobwebs and dirty and dusty. Industrial archaeology. I love that. It's just so much fun. But, you know, old descriptions of stuff and things, how things used to be. Yes, nostalgia. Yes. Then all of a sudden, if everything starts turning again, and everything's, because that's what Shakti will do. It will clean up the whole operation. It will oil the machines. It will order supplies. It will, isn't that fun? That makes me very happy. It will, everything just will, you know, and there, and off we go. And out the other end comes bottles of something beautiful, I hope. You know, with lids on and stickers on and everything pretty and beautiful, and integrates and off into the world. Happy times. So I suppose that image came either out of my steampunk tarot or out of this one right there. The thing about the necklace, final point here, what I wanted to show you, because of what's on the bone here, I carved an actual sigil. Yes, I did. I'm going to actually take the thing off because it is a bit heavy on the, you know, and there's all the hair and everything. So, and I shouldn't put it too close to the camera, but you can see there's little spirals at the outsides. And somehow I've always been tempted to use symbols that have little spirals at the outside. The idea is basically that we have a maze in the middle, or like a loopy spiral with a center, like so. On the outside of that, there's actually there's a set of antlers going like this, symmetrical around the middle maze. One of the antlers is connected to the maze. The other one isn't. It's just a separate antler, just for some reason. For now, anyway. You might just as well connect them. The idea for me is that each outside spiral is actually a past life, or it symbolizes some of that. And every spiral connects into the maze, which is the process of my life as it is at this moment. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then it has a little sun at the bottom, which stands for either the Earth Star chakra or the Shakti energy, or whatever, you know, the sun under the earth that brings the whole thing into being. And there's a little moon at the top. You won't be able to see that. It's in there somewhere. Nah, you can't see that because it's just little shades of things. And it's an old bone, so I tried to polish it up a bit so that it would be shinier and that you could see, you know, see the details as much as possible. I don't know, I'll have to watch this back and see what it looks like. I did make a drawing, maybe that helps. I can actually take out my book of shadows and show you the drawing. That's it right there. See? It has the spirals on the outside and the sun at the bottom, the moon at the top, and the maze in the middle. This is actually a fairly accurate representation of what I was talking about. There's more to this. I made sort of a separate sigil for my husband, who's a womb twin survivor. And that's a different subject. I'm already 40 minutes in. This is enough for now. The womb twin survivor gets a different sigil from this, because, back in a bit. Thank you for watching. I hope you like my endless weird rambles. Apparently you do, because you're here. Thank you. See you soon.